Here we have the Roundhouse Basic Series Bertie, which you may have seen running in part 1. And of course, one of the things you would have noticed is that these locomotives in standard form are very, very quiet. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to fit a Summerlands Chuffer. And here is the chuffer with the instructions. Here we have the chuffer body and the sound slot. This is the resonator in the body here, and then this is the adapter, which is a firm push fit onto the exhaust pipes after we've cut them down. This is designed to fit a number of locomotives, and most of them fit at about 72 millimeters down from the top of the chimney, where you cut the pipes. But in fact this one is different because Bertie has a narrow long chimney and a small smoke box. So in the instructions it says for Bertie we're going to cut 78 millimeters down. Let's see what that means in practice. Now I confess it's a long time since I've fitted one to a Bertie, so I looked on our website, the Summerlands Chuffer website, and it just says simply you undo this little bolt at the front here. Handy to have the right size spanners, of course, don't just chew it up with a pair of pliers. This is a 6BA spanner, useful to have in the workshop, and I'm just going to take that nut off like that, and then I believe, according to the instructions, that'll just lift off like that. So the whole foot plate comes away. These basic series locos are beautifully simple. Now, before removing the smoke box, I'm going to take off the front buffer beam, because that gives me easy access to that screw that we can still see in front of the smoke box there. So just by taking this off, very simple, 2 screws and it's off. And what we have now is that screw, and I can just pop that down and remove it with a pair of pliers like that. So now I've got one more thing to do before I can remove the smoke box. I've got to go underneath the side here, and there's a boiler band there which is in fact holding 2 lugs that are on the smoke box itself. You'll see them when it comes off. So if I undo that boiler band nice and loose like that, now I will be able to ease it forward off those lugs like so, and up and off. And what we can see is that those are the lugs that were held by the boiler band, and those lugs there go over the frame spacer, which is that black piece there. So they literally hook under it, that tightens up there, and then the screw holds it in front. These are the twin exhausts, and you can see that in standard form they're just crimped at the top and a hole drilled in the side. The problem with that is A, it's quiet, and B, it allows a fair bit of moisture to come up through the top of the chimney. So what we're going to do is replace it with the chuffer that'll fit on those 2 pipes. And you may remember at the beginning I said that we have to make sure it's 78 millimeters down from the top of the chimney. So what we're going to do is we're going to balance the smoke box in place there, and then measure down from the top of there 72 millimeters. Now you can use a ruler for that, but I'm going to use let's just zero it. This is cheap and cheerful from Aldi, and what I'm going to do is set it to 78. I mean, it's not crucial within 0.1 of a. I reckon that'll do. And what we do is we measure down from the top. It'll be interesting to see if I can do this. by putting the chimney in its normal position, like that, we can just put a little mark. Now the reason this one is deeper set than the other, the normal locos, most of the other ones, is because the chimney is quite narrow, and what we don't want is we don't want the chuffer base to be inside the chimney, because that would block it up. So what we're doing is we're positioning it just below. Now I can see the mark that I made there, which is about there, and I'm just going to mark that again there, and I'm going to double check it again. It's rather awkward, but I can see that that's pretty well spot on. Measure twice, cut once is the old saying. In this it's probably measure 3 times and cut once. Right, what I'm doing now is just protecting the loco, and I've got a bit of kitchen towel here, and I'm just going to poke it over the top of there so that that's covered up, and then a bit of an old t-shirt. Just basically you're wielding a junior hacksaw. You could use a Dremel cutting wheel, but I find a junior hacksaw is the best. And very gently make sure you're in the right place. I mean, I'm doing this leaning across the table, so it's not perfect. I mean, if you're of a sensitive disposition, you may want to look away at this point. But basically, I'm just cutting through these soft copper pipes. If you feel this is too difficult for you, there are lots of chuffer fitters who will, you can send or take your loco to, and they will do it for you. But when you just spend hundreds of pounds on a loco, you might feel a bit nervy about this. There we are. There's one. And now I can finish off this one a bit more easily. Oh yeah, it's coming off. There we are. So, I have got 2 exhaust pipes and those 2 there. And what I'm going to do now is use a fine file just to clean them up a bit at the top. It's worth having a little cheap fine file in your toolbox. I mean, you could use a nail file, I suppose, but basically you want to just chamfer them a bit. And I've got a fine needle file here just to clear those bits like that. Just finish off. Can you see how I'm just going around it with the file to make a nice chamfered edge like that. There we are. And all I'm going to do now is just take the chuffer. There are the holes in the bottom. Just make sure that those will go in there, which they will. So do them one at a time like that, just to make sure the pipe hasn't got squashed or anything, and that it goes in nicely. There we are. They only go in about 5 millimeters. But now I'm going to, with a lot of these locos, it suits them to have the chuffer facing backwards. So that's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to feed it into the one, and then the other like that. And I'm going to just tap it down with the handle of a screwdriver. And that's now really firm. It ain't going to go anywhere at all. It's wonderful how just the simplest technology of a push fit works so well. And there is the chuffer fitted. We've got a little bit of adjustment to do now when we put the smoke box back on, but we're pretty well there. If I now hold the smoke box up against where it's going to sit, you can see that, I hope you can see, that the boss is well below the chimney, but that the chuffer itself is nicely inside the chimney. It's the thing with chuffers, the slot always has to be fully inside the chimney. Now I'm going to refit the smoke box, and those lugs need to go inside the frame. So first thing I'm going to do is get the chuffer into position, then I'm going to slip it down and just squeeze those lugs in so that I know they're between the frames, and I can go over this side to check that. And now I'm going to go down, and I've got to get those lugs to clear. You see, they've not cleared the boiler. There we are. Get them down so they clear the boiler, and then they'll, with a bit of jiggling, they'll go back and locate in position so that I've got the smoke box bang on in the right position. There we are. You see, then I just had to use a little bit of pressure to push it back, and you can see, hopefully, if I bring that up close, you can see that that lug has passed underneath the boiler band up there and underneath the boiler band there. So what I'm now going to do, in fact, is I am going to look down the chimney and see where the chuffer's positioned. Now the slot's facing backwards, so what I can see there is it's absolutely clear at the back. It's slightly over to one side, so I shall just ease it a bit like that with a screwdriver from the top. Quite simple. And now it's nicely sitting at the front. Now if I had the slot facing forward, I'd do it the other way around. What you don't want is you don't want the slot facing the touching the side. Right, what I can now do is I can tighten up that boiler band. Let's just get it round into the right position. Make sure both those lugs are nicely caught by it. I'm holding the nut on the far side and doing it up. Oh yeah, I can feel it beginning to bite now. What I'm going to do now is pop this screw a nut. That was the first nut we took off. I'm going to pop that back into place. So that goes up through the frame spacer. This is going to be a slightly different way of putting it back together, but now let's use a pair of pliers, because I'm just going to catch that on there like that. And now I'm going to put the foot plate back on, because there's a slot there, so it'll slot over that. And remember to get it the right way up. These are lamp irons, so basically it goes on this way up and it slots at the back into two slots in the front of the cab. Let's just push that screw up so that I can go on there. There we are. It's in position now, and that little nut is nicely showing up there. So tip it on its side, and this will also allow you to check that both of those tabs have gone in right and that one of them hasn't ended up below. And this time I can do this up with a screwdriver. I could if I could see it. There we are. And I'm going to put that little spanner on there, 6BA spanner, and tighten it up. Then it's just a question of putting the buffer beam back on. You can see where it goes. Simply locate that screw in the buffer beam, in the loco frame rather. Pop the other one back in. It's so nice the way these locos come apart. I know some people aren't fans of these cheesehead screws, but until you're totally comfortable with taking locos apart, they really are rather nice to use. So there we have. Bertie is fitted with a Summerland's Chuffer. Let's try it out.